stop what you're doing right now. Because if you plan to step inside an airport in 2026, what you think you know about flying is already outdated. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I'm Mila, and I work in the air for a living. I see what happens behind the scenes long before passengers feel the impact, and today's topic is not a small rule update or another annoying security tweak. These are new airport rules in 2026 that will permanently change how you travel, from the moment you arrive at the terminal to the second you step onto the aircraft. I know the reaction most people have. Rules change every year, right? Liquids, shoes, laptops, boarding groups. This is different. We are not talking about another version of the 311 rule. We are talking about a structural reset of the entire travel system. Airports are moving into an era where your journey is no longer controlled by a person checking documents, but by machines scanning your face and systems calculating risk in real time. Biometric check-in is no longer optional or experimental. It is becoming mandatory. European travel will soon require approvals months in advance. Flight schedules are being reduced at major hubs, and security technology is quietly rewriting what you can and cannot bring without most travelers realizing it yet. The goal behind all of this is speed. Airports want to move you from curb to gate in minutes, not hours. On paper, that sounds incredible. Faster lines, fewer checkpoints, less stress. But speed only works if you understand the system. If you don't, that same technology designed to help you will be the reason your bag is flagged, your boarding pass is rejected, or your trip ends before it starts. In this video, I'm breaking down the 4 biggest rule and technology shifts taking full effect in 2026. I'll explain why they're happening, how they're enforced, and what you need to do now so you don't get caught off guard later. Before we move forward, if you want honest, real-world travel advice from someone who actually works these flights, make sure you're subscribed and notifications are on. I also want to hear your thoughts. How do you feel about your face becoming your passport? Excited, uncomfortable, or both? Leave a comment because that conversation matters as much as the rules themselves. Now let's step into the first change that's already reshaping airports worldwide. This first shift is the biometric boarding mandate, and it is the most dramatic change happening across the entire travel ecosystem. By 2026, your face will become your primary travel credential at the airport, often replacing both your boarding pass and your passport at multiple checkpoints. Facial recognition technology itself is not new, but what is changing is how universal and mandatory its use is becoming. Airports are under pressure like never before. Passenger numbers keep climbing, staffing cannot keep up, and the only solution administrators see is automation. That means machines, not people, controlling access. At check-in kiosks, security entrances, immigration gates, and boarding doors, cameras will scan your face, instantly match it to your booking and your government-issued ID stored in a secure database, and approve or deny access in seconds. The efficiency is staggering. At some international hubs, processing time per passenger is already dropping to under 10 seconds. I recently flew through Singapore's Changi Airport, which is years ahead of most systems. Watching an entire family clear immigration without pulling out a single document was honestly shocking. From a crew perspective, we are already being trained on handheld biometric devices as well. This is not a pilot program, this is the future. But with that efficiency comes a hard truth. These systems are unforgiving. If your biometric profile is incomplete, outdated, or inconsistent, you will be flagged instantly. A new hairstyle, significant weight change, different glasses, or a new beard can be enough to trigger a mismatch. When that happens, you are pushed out of the automated flow and into manual verification. That is where delays start piling up, because staffing will be focused on keeping automated lanes moving. The fix here is preparation and consistency. Enroll your biometrics now. Airlines, airports, and trusted traveler programs are already offering voluntary enrollment. Even if you never pay for premium services, linking your face to your documents early gives the system a clean reference. Make sure your baseline ID is valid and compliant. For U.S. travelers, that means a real ID-compliant driver's license or a valid passport. Without that foundation, the biometric system simply will not work for you. You will be treated as an exception, and exceptions move slowly. You should also understand your right to opt out. You can always request manual screening instead of facial recognition. That right is protected, but understand the trade-off. Manual lines will be longer, slower, and increasingly under-resourced. Choosing to opt out means choosing extra time and uncertainty. This isn't meant to scare you, but to be realistic. Airports are building for automation first. Human processing is becoming the backup, not the standard. As a flight attendant, I see how this affects boarding most clearly. Gates are being redesigned so that boarding happens through biometric portals. No agent scanning passes, no announcements reminding people to have documents ready. Just walk up, look forward, and proceed. When it works, it's seamless. When it doesn't, it stops everything behind you. That is why preparation matters more than ever. Keep your profile current. Use consistent photos. Make sure your documents are valid well before your trip. This change is not optional, and it is not coming someday. It is already here, quietly expanding airport by airport, and if you are not ready, the system will make that clear very quickly. Once biometric processing becomes the default, the next major change reshaping travel in 2026 will affect anyone planning a trip to Europe, and it requires a complete shift in how you think about preparation. For decades, American travelers could arrive at a European airport, hand over a passport, receive a stamp, and move on. That era is ending. The European Union is fully implementing two interconnected digital border systems that will replace passport stamps and introduce mandatory pre-authorization. The first system is the entry-exit system, known as EES. Instead of stamping your passport, border control will digitally record your entry and exit using biometric data. The first time you enter under this system, you will provide fingerprints and a facial scan. From that point forward, your movements in and out of the Schengen area will be tracked with precision. The familiar flexibility created by unclear stamps is gone. The system becomes a digital accountant, calculating your exact days spent in Europe and enforcing the 90 days within 180 days rule without error. The second system is the European Travel Information and Authorization System, or ETIAS, and this is where many travelers will run into trouble. ETIAS is not a visa, but it is mandatory. Think of it as a security clearance similar to the US ESTA program. You must apply online before your trip, pay a small fee, and receive approval before you even reach the airport. By late 2026, airlines will be legally required to verify ETS approval before allowing boarding. If you arrive at the check-in counter without it, the airline will deny boarding on the spot. There will be no appeals, no exceptions, and no fixing it at the airport. From the airline's perspective, transporting a passenger without proper authorization results in fines and forced returns, and they will not take that risk. I've already watched enforcement tighten in other regions with similar systems. Gate agents and desk agents are receiving constant updates reminding them that document compliance is their responsibility. Once ETIAS is fully live, showing up without approval will be treated exactly the same as showing up without a valid passport. You will not fly. That is why trip planning must change permanently. Applying weeks before departure is no longer enough. You should treat ETS like a visa process, even though it technically isn't one. Apply months in advance. Ideally, submit your application as soon as you begin planning your trip. Errors happen, names are misspelled, passports expire, applications get delayed for additional screening. Time is the buffer that saves your trip. You also need to plan for your first entry under the new system. The initial biometric enrollment at the border will take longer than future crossings. Fingerprinting and facial capture are required, and even with efficient gates, this step adds time. Build that into your arrival expectations, especially if you have tight connections. And finally, understand that overstaying becomes far riskier. The system does not forget. Exceeding your allowed days can trigger future entry refusals automatically. Europe is becoming more efficient, not more flexible. For travelers who prepare, the process will feel smooth and controlled. For those who don't, it will feel abrupt and unforgiving, because digital borders do not negotiate or overlook mistakes. Beyond border systems and biometric identity, the next major shift travelers will feel most clearly is happening in the skies themselves. This change is not aimed directly at passengers, but its effects will shape prices, schedules, and reliability throughout 2026 and beyond. Ongoing strain on aviation infrastructure, combined with severe air traffic controller shortages, has forced regulators to make difficult decisions. Major U.S. air travel markets are already experiencing mandated flight reductions, and these limits are expected to continue. Airports such as Newark, JFK, and LaGuardia are under constant pressure. and the system simply cannot handle the volume it once did without increasing risk. Fewer flights are the safety solution, even if it creates inconvenience. For travelers, this translates into a tighter, less forgiving schedule environment. When capacity shrinks, the effects cascade quickly. Fewer flights mean fewer available seats, and basic economics takes over. Ticket prices rise, especially for nonstop routes and peak travel days. Last-minute bookings become significantly more expensive, and popular routes sell out earlier than travelers are used to. Delays also become more common, not because airlines are careless, but because the system has less room to recover. When weather, mechanical issues, or crew disruptions occur, there are fewer spare aircraft and fewer open slots to absorb the impact. One delayed departure can ripple through an entire network in hours. I see this firsthand from the crew side, where a single late inbound flight can cancel multiple legs down the line simply because there is nowhere to reposition aircraft or crews fast enough. Short weekend trips are especially vulnerable. Flights scheduled during peak windows, particularly from mid-morning through evening, face the highest cancellation risk. Friday evening departures and Sunday returns sit directly in the most congested part of the system. Early morning flights, especially the first departures of the day, remain the most reliable because delays have not yet accumulated. That timing advantage matters more than ever. Choosing the wrong departure hour can mean losing an entire day of your trip. The strategy going forward requires flexibility and intention. Booking nonstop flights whenever possible reduces exposure to disruptions at congested hubs. While nonstop fares are often higher, the reliability they offer can be worth the cost, particularly when connections involve airports facing mandated reductions. Travelers who live near smaller or secondary airports should seriously consider using them. These airports often operate with fewer constraints, shorter taxi times, and more predictable schedules. The experience can be noticeably calmer, even if the drive is slightly longer. Another important shift is how airlines prioritize routes. Flights that serve essential business markets or high-demand international corridors are protected first. Leisure-heavy routes and marginal frequencies are more likely to be trimmed. That means favorite seasonal flights may disappear or operate fewer days per week. Monitoring schedules closely after booking becomes essential. Airlines will adjust capacity repeatedly as conditions evolve, and staying informed allows you to rebook proactively instead of reacting at the airport. This contraction is not temporary turbulence. It reflects a long-term recalibration of air travel to match realistic staffing and infrastructure limits. For travelers who plan carefully, it is manageable. For those who assume the system will bend around their plans, it will feel unpredictable and frustrating. Understanding these constraints allows you to choose flights that work with the system instead of fighting against it, which is the difference between a smooth trip and a stressful one. The final major change travelers will notice at the airport happens at security, and it directly affects one of the most frustrating rules flyers have dealt with for years. The expansion of advanced CT scanners is quietly rewriting how carry-on screening works, but the transition is uneven, and that inconsistency is where problems arise. These new scanners create a detailed three-dimensional image of your bag, allowing security systems to analyze contents with far greater accuracy than the old flat X-ray machines. Because of this, liquids and electronics no longer need to be removed at many upgraded checkpoints, and liquid limits are being relaxed dramatically. In some locations, travelers are already allowed to carry containers up to 2 liters. Full-size shampoo, drinks, and toiletries are no longer automatically prohibited. Laptops and tablets can remain inside bags. When the system works as designed, security becomes faster and less stressful. The issue is that adoption is slow and inconsistent. By 2026, some airports will be fully upgraded, some will be partially upgraded, and others will still rely entirely on older technology. Even within the same airport, one lane may use a new scanner while the lane beside it does not. Travelers often assume rules are universal, and that assumption causes delays, secondary inspections, and confiscated items. I have personally watched passengers breeze through one airport without removing liquids, then lose the same items at another airport hours later because the older system is still in place. The confusion leads to frustration, arguments, and missed boarding calls, all of which are avoidable. The safest approach is to default to the old rules unless you are clearly told otherwise. Until you see signage at your specific checkpoint stating that liquids may remain in bags or larger quantities are allowed, Assume the traditional limits still apply. Pack liquids in a clear quart-size bag and be prepared to remove them quickly. Even with new scanners, cluttered bags are more likely to be flagged. Keeping electronics accessible is still smart. If your bag is selected for secondary screening, being able to remove a laptop immediately keeps the line moving and reduces stress. Checking your departure airport's official website or trusted travel news sources before you fly is the only reliable way to know what technology is in place. Do not rely on past experiences or assumptions. Security rules are now defined by machines, not habits. The travelers who move smoothly through checkpoints are not guessing. They are informed, prepared, and adaptable, which is exactly how airport security is designed to reward passengers in this new era. When you step back and look at all these changes together, a clear pattern emerges. Airports in 2026 are being redesigned around efficiency, automation, and control. For travelers who show up unprepared, that shift will feel harsh. Missed approvals, flagged bags, denied boarding, and endless delays will become common stories. But for travelers who understand how the system works, these same changes become an advantage. The technology is not slowing down, and the rules are not bending to accommodate last-minute decisions. That gap between technology and awareness is where problems happen, and it is also where smart travelers stay ahead. Knowing that your face is becoming your primary ID allows you to enroll early, keep documents current, and avoid manual lines. Understanding Europe's new digital border systems changes how you plan trips long before booking flights. Recognizing flight capacity reductions helps you choose better departure times, safer routes, and realistic schedules. Accepting that security rules now depend on checkpoint technology keeps your packing habits conservative and adaptable. None of this requires special status or expensive memberships. It requires information and discipline. From my perspective, working in the cabin, the biggest difference I see between stressed passengers and calm ones is not luck. It is preparation. The calm travelers move smoothly because nothing surprises them. They know why a gate changed, why boarding paused, or why a bag was flagged, and they respond instead of reacting. Airports are becoming less forgiving, but they are also becoming more predictable if you know what to expect. That predictability is powerful. These changes are not meant to punish travelers. They are designed to move millions of people safely through a strained system as fast as possible. The mistake is assuming the old habits still apply. They don't. The rules of travel are being rewritten quietly, airport by airport, system by system. Waiting until you feel the impact is the most expensive way to learn. If there is one takeaway from everything we've covered, it is this: treat travel like a process, not an event. Prepare early, verify documents, check technology updates, and build flexibility into your plans. Doing that turns a complicated system into a manageable one. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this breakdown helped you understand what's coming, give the video a like so more travelers see it, and keep the conversation going in the comments. I'll be back soon with more real-world insights to help you travel smarter, stay calm, and arrive ready for what's next.